You could skip on learning these two skills, but you might want to start practicing your distress call. Hello? Hello? Ah! I've been four-wheel driving for years, and these two skills are always learnt the hard way. I'm going to show you what they are, but more importantly, how to gain these two underrated skills. Look, this is stuff that no one teaches you until it's too late.
You gotta be f***ing kidding me.
And when it's too late, well, you got to learn the hard way. There are many things that people get wrong when it comes to fixing your tires. For example, let's say you have a puncture, bent rim or something. What are you going to do? Most people generally go for the jack and the spare tire.
Like it never happened.
I say why remove it in the first place and replace it when you can fix it in less than a quarter of the time it takes to change a tire. Here's an interesting fact. A lot of people who have upgraded their tires and suspension don't even have the hardware to actually make a tire wheel change. Standard jack, 35-inch tires, 4-inch lift. It's pretty useless really. So, what I am going to show you, you don't even need to use the jack and you can repair your tire. Fix the issue while it's still on the vehicle. How, you might ask? This does not feel right. I'd show you right now, but we need to find the problem first. There are 4 ways your tire would generally leak. From the valve core, it's an absolute pain. A bent rim, dirt inside the bead, which is between the rim and the bead of the tire, or of course, a puncture, sidewall, shoulder, or the tread. Speaking of punctures, it makes sense to point your finger at the tire. I mean, what else could it be? And that might just be because you're not sure where to look. And you got to find the problem before you can fix it. Skill number 1, locating the problem. Scenario number 1, you suspect your valve core might be leaking. How do you find out without getting some stuff out? You see that? The good old spit test. You can tell it's leaking by seeing the bubbles. And when it's really bad, you can literally feel the pressure. When it comes to chasing air leaks, water is your best friend. But you don't have to put the whole tire under water. You just got to spray it on there. Add some detergent and you're onto a winner. We need to fix the valve core and you might be wondering, how do we do that? Do we take it to a tyre shop? Heck no. Why take it to a tyre shop when you can do it yourself? And out in the middle of nowhere, you see any tyre shops here? Let me show you how to change a valve core. Once I show you this, you'll realise how easy it is. You need a valve core remover. Important to have a replacement valve core. So what causes the leakage? You see this red rubber here? If that gets mud or dirt, sand, it can react with the rubber and the rubber then goes hard.
Mud is also corrosive and it can eat away at the seals on your valve cores and you need to replace it.
It will just tend to leak. So, have this ready for when we take this out. When this comes out, the air's going to hiss and it's probably going to shoot away.
A few moments later.
Oh shit! Make sure you got one of these before you pull the valve core out. Insert the other one and then gently screw it in. You don't want to tighten it too much because that can also cause a leak. You want to just nip it up a little bit. That's enough. And that's how you change a valve core. Pretty simple. I'm going to put a cap back on it. You can help avoid this by using valve caps. This doesn't change the fact rapid tire deflators are the main cause for valve cores wearing out. Unscrews your valve core, pull the plunger up, push this back. Air pressure will let the valve core out. After all, they were never designed to be removed and installed over and over again. For some, replacing the valve core is inevitable.
That's why I carry about 50 of them.
This tyre repair kit doesn't just save tyres, it also saves egos. If the valve core wasn't the problem, then it's likely your tyre. Could be from a flat. You have a leak somewhere. All right, let's get to it. So we can hear it leaking, but it's actually very hard to see. And this is the best way to find it. If you're four-wheel driving and camping, you'll obviously have some kind of dishwashing liquid. Mix it with some water, that's how you can see where it's leaking. But sometimes they're actually very hard to see, so you got to look for little bubbles. My puncture was on the tread, but what if it was on the shoulder or the sidewall? You've likely heard that's not a good thing.
Done a good job here.
At the moment, we're trackside. Doesn't matter where the hole is, we're going to plug it so we can get out. And I'll talk about what you need to do right after we plug this. Whoa, that's coming out now. So first thing you got to do is open your kit up before you lose too much air. And you want to grab the boring tool, also known as a reamer. We want to get that in, and mainly to stop the air from leaking. There we go. What we want to do now is really work it, because we need to make the hole bigger so we can get the plug in. So it might sound counterintuitive, making the hole bigger, much easier to get the plug in. All right, we'll leave that in. Now we prepare the plug-in kit. That's the plug-in tool. That's the retainer. The retainer will come in handy soon. These are the cords that will become the plug. So now, kit, you get 30 cords. On the inside of the tyre, it will bunch up, forming a plug. How many can you put in?
Plug number 4.
As many as you need to.
Plug number 5.
And that's one of the reasons why I put 30 cords in this kit. You never know how many of these you need. This one time on this island, 19 plus. So what we want is for this to be halfway, and that's where the pliers come in handy. Inside the kit, there's also a tube of lubricant. Now it's ready. With the plugging tool ready to go, let's pull the other one out. The more air that's in the tyre, the easier this process is going to be. Now don't go too far. If you go too far, you'll start this process over again.
Uh-oh, too far. I lost the plug.
There we go, it's pretty far in. All right, so as you'll see, this tool has a retainer. It's much easier to extract the tool without pulling this out with it. If you don't have that, you can use pliers. In this case, it's between the tread blocks, so it's pretty difficult, but you can do that with a set of pliers and then extract. But it's much easier with the retainer. And there you have it. It's plugged. Only one way to make sure though. I think we're good.
We are good to rock and roll.
The instructions will say to chop this off afterwards. I think it's smarter to leave these bunny ears sticking out.
Let's leave the plugs sticking out so we can see where they are.
For just a little bit of time, because you want to check if it's leaking, and at least you can find it a lot easier with the bunny ears.
Sweet.
It's been 5 days and the tyre is holding air, so it's time to trim the bunny ears. I mentioned earlier there is a difference between the tread, the shoulder and the sidewall. Something you must be aware of. The only structurally safe area on a tyre is the middle of the tread. That has all the cords. The shoulder and the sidewall has no integrity whatsoever. You can feel it, you can most definitely hear it, and you can even see it. You can really hear the difference, can't you? That might be the case, but do the plugs stay in okay? Okay, sidewall comes out easy. Shoulder, just as easy. The shoulder almost seems weaker. And the top of the tyre speaks for itself. That's why you can trust them more here than here or here. That is the most reliable place to stake your tyre, but that's not always how it happens.
On life's edge here, eh?
There's also a difference between tyres. If you have a weak tyre that doesn't have much of a sidewall or a tread even, you wouldn't be able to trust the plug as much as you would with something like this.
Stay in this time.
That said, if you're on the track, you need to do what you need to do to get yourself out. And rather than taking that tyre off and putting your spare on, just keep plugging that tyre until you can't plug it anymore.
Substantial hole, not on a highway, so I'm just going to plug it.
The tyre repair kit is designed to get you home, to get you to the highway in some cases. Then change the tyre, hit the highway and get home. And then get a professional to fix the inside of the tyre. Just understand that when you have plugged a tyre and you're on the highway, you're doing this at your own risk, but you're also doing it at other people's risk too. Be careful.
Really, just tyre's pretty well done for the highway.
There are 2 more things you need to know, however. Before that though, here's a quick word from myself. Now for a different kind of plug before we continue the video. Yes, I'm plugging the plugging kit that you've seen me use throughout the video. A lot of thought, a lot of experience, and a lot of practice is within this bag. It's a bit like a first aid kit, except for it's for your tyres. The first thing that touches the ground. Oh! Usually the one thing that goes wrong. Down below in Shopify, or you can follow the other link to our website. As I may have mentioned before, dirt can enter between the bead of the tyre and the rim itself. Let's say you're full driving, you got lower tyres, you're knocking against some tree roots and dirt. it gets into this bead and then it'll end up in here. That can cause a tyre leak as well.
How do you get the dirt out?
If you get a couple of long flathead screwdrivers
Got a long nose there.
and a pair of long nose pliers, that'll get you a long way in cleaning that bead of the tyre without taking the whole wheel off the car.
This road is pretty shit though.
If you take the whole wheel off the car, which sometimes you may have to do, well then you might as well do a proper job and de-bead it and then reseat it, and that's a whole different ball game. But is it possible to do it without taking the wheel off the car? Possible. I've done this before with a
Ratchet strap. Small one.
The leak down the valve or the side?
Side. I think we're getting somewhere now. Change the valve core. Seems to be holding in now.
And what if you buckle your wheel? In that case, hopefully you have steel, because steel's the only one you can knock back. Best to use a brass hammer, but when you're out in the bush, you gotta do what you gotta do. Some cases might be the back of an axe. Yes, that's another thing you can fix while it's still on the car. Alloy wheels, really difficult to buckle. However, once you buckle them, they're gone. You can't knock them back. I've spoken about how to find a problem and how to fix the problem, but what about avoidance? It's always best to learn how to fix things. That said, however, avoidance goes a long way.
There are many ways you could puncture a tyre, and the increased risk is when the tyres are too hard.
Well, you know, you could just lower your tyres.
Lowering the pressure in your tyres allows the tyre to mould to things as it drives over it.
Meaning less chance of anything coming through the tyre. At high pressures, however, something has to give.
Fair enough, but what if you've got tyres that aren't rated as off-road tyres? They're just weak as piss. Just get some off-road tyres, mate.
I know which tyre I would prefer out of these two. I mean, one of them looks like a road terrain. Do you really think that's going to hold up to a lot of stakey stuff? Probably not.
When you don't follow the wheel track, you might nudge it.
Follow the wheel
tracks, mate. You'll be fine.
Staying on the track is definitely a concentration thing. What you want to avoid are burnt sticks, live sticks, pretty much anything on the edge, and of course tree roots. All of those things, if you stay on the track, you shouldn't have a problem.
What about worn tyres? Less tread makes it easier to puncture. Just get new ones.
Before you go on a big trip, make sure your tyres are fresh. You don't want to be in the middle of a canning stock route with 50% worn tyres. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. What you want is nice, thick, fresh tread.
Old, brittle tyres, they can blow out.
Once tyres are about 5 years old, they start deteriorating. When they get to about 10 years old, well, you can see what happened to Harry's tyre. One tyre down, half a flare missing, and a nice big dent in the rear bar.
Mate, just check it by reading somewhere here.
Manufacturing dates on tyres can be found with the 4-digit code, the 25th week of 2022.
You'll be fine.
But the reality is,
Turns out it was a flat tyre.
It doesn't matter what you do, you can't avoid a puncture.
We're all eyeing off Torben's 2 spare tyres now. He's the only one carrying 2 spares.